What's up, Niagara? This is Chris Somerfield from the Davis & Delot team, Niagara Region's #1 real estate team. Still filming on location here at Frontier Barbers Company, and I'm sitting here with Jesse Dolster.
Yes.
Jesse.
You got my name right.
I did.
Not everybody does.
I practiced it about a dozen times before we started filming.
I know, I heard you.
I know. I said it so loud, so.
Yes.
Jesse is the owner of Brandit as well as DH Media.
Yes.
Right?
It's SS Brandit, Silvestri Sports.
Oh, okay.
Was the original company. And since my name is not Silvestri and the owner has disappeared, well, not disappeared, he sold, obviously. So we wanted to maintain the history because it's a business that's been around since 1984.
Right.
So we're still mentioning the Silvestri Sports, but we shortened it to SS Brandit.
So it's like a nod to where you came from and where you're going to go, right?
So.
Nice. I like when businesses tend to do that, where they know where the business has started, but now that it's under new ownership, you kind of move forward into the future, right?
Yeah.
So
it was important to do. It's changed hands a few times. So the original owner, the Silvestri, sold it in 2006. Mm-hmm. So we're just going even further into the changing of the name that the previous owner did, because now it's not Silvestri, twice removed, I suppose. So
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So at the company, what is it that you do? Are you mostly just focusing on like branding and apparel, or?
So we do. That's a big portion of it, but we're trying to like push the printing, the business cards, the promotional like products like that, pamphlets, brochures, and then also any business that wants to obviously shoot something like we're doing right now. We've been pushing that as well because we think there's a need and a want for businesses to do that.
Yeah. Might as well just take this opportunity to actually explain that you are...
Normally I'm the behind the camera
Yeah, you're actually behind the camera. So this isn't your first rodeo here on this podcast. You're actually usually on that side of things, and now we kind of pulled you in here. So kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit because you've been helping us ramp up What's Up Niagara and making it the production juggernaut that it is today. So...
Well, no, it was really good. There's a handful of real estate companies and agents in Niagara that I follow, and you've been one since you were on the other podcast, right? We've done this together before.
Yep.
And when you contacted me to say you wanted to invest in doing this, that's a good thing because I've always thought it was a good idea. But when you go to businesses and say, let's do all the work for you, and charge, not everybody saw the value in it, but I'm glad that Davis & Delot has.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when things hit in March, we were desperately looking to try and find new ways to create some sort of content and get our ideals and values out there, right? And one of the biggest things is that we are Niagara Region's #1 real estate team. And you can only say that so many times without it losing steam, because it seems like everyone's able to kind of vouch at their #1 at something for some reason based on like whatever the description is. So we want to go out there and actually tell people that we are all about Niagara, and this is the easiest way to do it, is actually getting out there, talking to businesses in Niagara, seeing what it takes to run a business in Niagara and being a part of the community. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of see that vision of where we're going. Right?
And this is phenomenal. Like coming here on the back end, just being able to go to different businesses, I didn't know this existed in this capacity. So this is just a great place, and it's a great way for your customers and also just Niagara residents to learn about what's out there.
Yeah. So with DH Media, you don't do just podcasts. You actually do...
Thankfully, no, because that would be a very, very hard business to live off of. We do weddings, a lot of weddings. Normally this year, as with everything, has been not so great.
Yeah.
But
have you done any this year?
We have. All the weddings that we had booked pre-COVID have rescheduled, and all the weddings that we've done now have been weddings that I guess it sounds bad, but we're feeding on the scraps of other people. So weddings that are still going to happen, but their photographer has either had to cancel because they're no longer in business or they're just not operating.
I see.
So we'll end up with about half a dozen weddings, all small and all very, very modified to what they would have been. But I think that's like the majority of the industry.
Yeah.
I think there's some photographers out there and some companies that are doing more, but they might have. There's boutique wedding photographers in Niagara that probably targeted small weddings to begin with. And
Yeah.
if the wedding was always going to be small,
Yeah.
then they could probably carry
They're
through.
just staying the course,
Yeah.
essentially, right? So,
But for us, we always like to target the middle ground because we like people that have fun and know how to laugh during their wedding.
right.
Because we've shot some super expensive weddings where we were very happy to be there, but they weren't having as much fun because they spend $10,000 on their midnight buffet. So they know, like, it's very important that they are serious
Yeah.
about it all.
Yeah.
So we like to have fun. We like to make people laugh, but I guess our weddings got targeted heavily because we weren't small
Yeah.
weddings. So
Yeah, that's fair.
that's fine.
That's fair.
It allowed us to rethink and do some kind of different things. And because all the weddings from 2020 have rescheduled,
Yeah.
it's making 2021 look a lot better.
Look a lot fruitful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
excellent.
if we cross 2020 off the accounting books, 2021 will look really good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I know the last couple of months too, you mentioned this to me before in previous conversations, that you not only do weddings, but you've also kind of skewed into doing more funerals lately. Is that right?
That's a morbid twist.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I grew up in the funeral business. My father was a funeral home director, so I'm very closely tied with a lot of funeral directors. And when it first hit, so the middle of March,
Yeah.
I got a random call from one of my dad's friends and said, I need you to do a funeral video. I'm like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was an outside funeral. It was only, it was the mother who had passed and her 3 children, and that was it, and the minister. So at that point, when everything was just shutting down, we didn't know exactly what was up. They were wearing a microphone, or the minister was wearing a microphone, and I was 40 feet away, zoomed in on
Yeah.
the ceremony. So it was very, very basic. And it's kind of, the production value has went up from there, so now we're treating it like, I mean, obviously like a funeral should be respected, so it can be a beautiful situation
Yeah.
where there's more time for like video of the flowers and close-ups of the minister, so
Right.
it's not just a wide shot. But those two have also kind of tapered off, and I think people might be going back to a new normal for funerals,
Yeah.
but I'm not actively going to be chasing funerals.
No, I
And
don't.
that would
I don't see
also
why
be a
you
hard
would.
thing to advertise too. When we first started doing them, I thought it's a good business event, but I can't advertise it on Facebook. I don't want my
Yeah.
wedding people to be like, ah.
Yeah. We'll catch you.
Now
We'll
in the
catch you on
business
both
of death.
sides, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Yeah, but it was a unique concept when you explained that to me, because I would never once think that I personally would want a funeral that I was at to be captured through video, or my own funeral captured on video. But I guess if the need was there, maybe there were individuals that couldn't make whatever service, that would be a good close second, is to be able to provide some sort of video to provide to them to experience and respect the person that passed away, right? So
I think my team and I, we'd always talked about it like for the past 5 years about how to break into it, because it's a business that's always existed, and most of the time it's the funeral homes that have to upsell it. So then you have to figure out how to convince the funeral homes that it's a good idea. But in Toronto, and I'm assuming in Niagara as well, on a normal basis, the reason why funerals are captured is because Canada's a melting pot, right? There's a lot of residents that have family that are overseas that will not be able to make it to the funeral.
right.
And I feel, unlike wedding videos, you might watch it once, but if you want to hear the words of what the son had to say about the mother or father,
Yeah.
watching it once if you can't make it in person in normal times is I can understand why. And then now when everybody was afraid to go out,
Yeah.
understandably so, again, watching it once just so you can be there.
And I guess everyone goes through the grieving process.
I was just going to say,
too,
it's a natural part of the grieving process at this point. So, but not something that I actively want to do. If my father was still in the funeral business, I think I definitely would. But since I don't have an active foot in the door anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, I cry at every wedding I work at.
Dude, you're a big softie, eh?
It's horrible because it'll either be the like bride or mother of the groom and the groom dance, and the song will catch me or something like that. And the funerals, there's no hope. I cry, and it is what it is, and I don't want to put myself through that.
Fair.
Weddings, the crying is nice. Funerals, if I'm crying at a funeral, I don't even know the person, and yet now I'm emotionally connected, and it's sad.
Yeah, so that's fair. That's fair. When you started up SS Brandit, you ended up picking it up at a very unique time in the world. What was that process been like for you to open up SS Brandit and try and move forward with what's going on right now?
Took possession on March 7th. We were open for a week before the NHL shut down, and we started to get very scared.
Yeah.
For a while, we were coasting on the fact that we were essential because we were providing uniforms and work outfits to other essential businesses. And there's a retail store component to the business, but we just shut that down because thankfully, being a screen printer or embroiderer, you don't have to interact with people. So people say, I need 50 shirts. You get them done, you can mail them out.
Right.
And we kind of put everything on pause. We wanted to do we did our due diligence when we bought the business, and we wanted to see what was working and what wasn't. And we couldn't because nothing was working, because nobody was working.
Right.
So we just kind of put everything on pause, and now that things are starting to ramp up a little bit, we're now able to kind of see what is working and what isn't, and what improvements can be made.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of cold calling, which is nice.
Right.
Trying to get it's not cold calls, because it's all been businesses that have worked with SS Brandit or Silvestri Sports in the past.
Yep.
And thankfully, none of them have said, you guys suck. So everything has been... I was nervous the first few days that we were going to make calls, because there are people that I haven't interacted with before, necessarily, and I was worried that they were going to say, well, I was disappointed with the service a few years ago, or whatever, and that's why. But there have been no negative reviews so far, so that's been positive. But
good.
A lot of people were closed. I would call a few businesses that I thought might be open when everything was up in the air, and most of them still just weren't taking phone calls.
Yeah.
So we put it on pause. We learned things. So embroidery, as far as the machinery goes and whatnot, it's not just grab and go. So there is a technique to it that we wanted to perfect, and we're still learning as we go. But so we took the time to invest in the learning of what we had bought into. So,
right, for sure. Yeah. Have you transitioned like most apparel institutions and started making masks and stuff like that?
When it first started, I had a friend who went heavy into masks. He started a mask business. Yeah. And I got to watch him try to sell the mask, and he got torn to shreds. And this was in March. This was very early. Okay. And the posts that he was making, people were angry. And I don't know if it was the price or the marketing, they were just angry. Yeah. And that scared me, because I would not want to be a new business that takes people off. Yeah. And then when people started coming to us, and when the suppliers that are normally doing T-shirts or stuff like that, they say, well, now we're doing masks, we dipped our toes, and now we'll do 70 masks for a business, or bigger mask orders. We're not focusing on the mask because it became a cottage industry. It went from getting medical masks to now everybody sells them. Like, that's true. And it's good because people need them. Yeah. But it's hard to be the leader in the mask business.
Yeah, I mean, considering that we know that there's going to be a tail end of this where, like, that's just going to dissipate, right? So is it really something that you're really looking to spearhead, or are you just going to accommodate any requests that come in?
And I think, like, the argument for buying, say, custom masks or reusable masks is the fact, obviously, you get to reuse them. They're a little bit more expensive, but there's a branding play, which we like, obviously, where businesses understand that if they're going to be wearing the mask, they can use it as a branding opportunity. They can use it as a giveaway.
Yep.
So a lot of the businesses that are buying the mask are just giving them away. But we've also done like face shields, the plastic face shields,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the actual covered like plastic barriers.
Yeah.
And those I have no problem selling. We didn't invest in them, the expensive ones. We did it our own way because the masks may stick around, but the shield, the standing shields, people spend a lot of money. They are
Yeah.
not cheap, and they're
Yeah.
not cheap from a business owner perspective to buy.
Yeah.
And eventually, they're going to be pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fair.
So I
mean,
like the convenience stores that have hung plastic sheets. Like
Yeah.
they don't look pretty, but they're cost effective and they do
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
that
And,
being-
and they're temporary, as all of this essentially is. This will pass,
Yes.
right?
That's
So
the
to
important thing that
invest-
everybody needs to remember.
So to invest so much time and effort and money into setting up these precautions, yes, it's necessary and needed, but you're not going to, no need to break the bank because it's only temporary. right?
Exactly.
So
And some businesses that really want the specific branding, like if they're going to be supplying or you have to wear a mask when you're inside.
Yep.
So some businesses want the control to know that they're not going to get their employees wearing polka dotted masks when their uniform is black. So they like to control the look of the masks,
Yeah.
which I get, and they look good.
yeah,
And that was a random tangent, but we're not focusing 100% on the mask, although
Yeah.
right now we do have massive mask orders, obviously, but that's not stopping our apparel.
yeah. So the phone call comes in, someone asks for it.
Yeah.
You can oblige for sure.
When Niagara mandated that you had to wear a mask, you saw the blip, and it was a blip everywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't plan on it because we weren't focusing on it, so we should have had masks in stock.
Yeah.
But then everybody needed masks, so even the suppliers didn't have them. But now we don't have to be as concerned because if we need 200 masks tomorrow,
Yeah.
you can get 200 masks tomorrow and
Yeah,
get
for
the
sure.
ball rolling. So
Nice. All right. So pivoting back to your experience with DH Media, and you have run your own podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you point blank on camera, like, what do we have to do to make this podcast a great podcast? What do you usually look for in a podcast that really attracts audiences when you're producing it? What does it take to make a podcast a great podcast?
a ton of content, right? That you need to continuously have the actual interviews. In this case, the podcast that we had, which is still active, and we do plan on coming back, so we'll shout out a funny thing happened on the way of the podcast.
There you
but
go.
the name
We'll
might
link you
change.
too, so.
Yeah. It's just making sure that if it's week to week and you stick to that plan, that you never falter on that, because even the one that we had, it had a very small dedicated audience, but they would message if it wasn't there on time, because sometimes things happen and we weren't doing it as a
Right.
business. So if we were behind a day, you'd still get people that would message, say, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on? So I think having the content itself is obviously the most important
Yeah.
side of
And staying
things.
consistent with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you post this on Friday mornings, right?
Yeah.
Or Friday. So
Every Friday.
Your consistency is good.
Yeah.
And people know when they want to listen or watch What's Up Niagara that they can get the latest episodes on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is also the production value, not to pat myself on the back. That was a weird thing to say,
Yeah.
but there's so many out there, and I keep getting ads for an app that does everything. So all you need to do is record your voice into your phone, and it'll do all the back end work, and you have a podcast, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you're going to like actually invest the time and energy into do it, you should do it right. Like a
Yeah.
microphone on a phone, that's fine. But if you're going to interview people, that limits it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then guests, content, but that
Yeah.
goes back to content as well.
Sure.
And then good marketing.
Yeah.
Just
It's all
just
hand in
pushing
hand.
it, and it's no real secret. We did it, and we were horrible about the lack of subtlety with it. If you want a guest that has a good reach
Yeah.
on their side of things,
Yeah.
that episode is automatically going to do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you almost have to be kind of not cynical in that way, but if you
Yeah.
want to grow it, you can.
You really got to pick.
You
gotta
can pick
your
and
guests.
choose.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is why
that's
I'm
fair.
just honored to be here. Because I am not a big choice.
Well, we want to get you on the show too, because I mean, like you're always hanging out outside on the other side of the camera. Yeah, you've essentially been handing out business cards to almost everyone we've had on the podcast.
Well, I think it's an interesting sales pitch. My second in command, Tila, years ago said we should sell podcasts, like exactly what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And we tried, and nobody was interested.
No one bit.
And cost-wise, maybe it seemed prohibitive then. Maybe I don't know what made. Maybe 2020 is just it's
Yeah,
been
I'll
that
make a
time of year.
guess because I've run into this when I'm trying to get guests on the show.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people are very hesitant in getting in front of a microphone, in front of a camera,
I wish I was hesitant.
and talking candidly for 30 minutes, thinking that they might screw up, they might look stupid, and that's been something since the dawn of time. Anyone that wants to run a business and they know that digital media and social media and all of that can really help their business, but they're just too scared to get in front of the camera. Now, with the pandemic that's occurred, it's kind of forced people to get into digital media.
Absolutely.
Right? But I think people are still hesitant on the podcast because they don't know what it is. They don't know why they need to do it or why they should do it. But in reality, for us, like we were already kind of doing it before we called you, because we were doing those IG lives every Thursday, which were doing okay. We would love doing it. We got good traction on the replays, but the live aspect of it, the production value was low and the amount of viewership was low. So there was really no reason for us to do it live. Anyways.
Live is always hard, though, right? Like
Yeah.
I could say right now that I'm going to go live on my Facebook
Yep.
page, and nobody's necessarily going to care because they're busy.
Yeah. For
So-
sure, they're busy. And then on the other side of things, when you're trying to create a show where you're accumulating guests, it's too difficult to try and convince a guest to come on live for 30 minutes and talking to them for 30 minutes, hoping that they don't say anything goofy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we said, you know what? Let's record these with a higher production value so then we can encourage guests to come on where it's a bit more controlled, and that seems to have worked out. So
And you guys took our attitude and just turned it into a conversation. Like that's I think where I went to school for broadcasting, and the first year of school we got to test out TV, radio, and film.
yeah.
And I thought, because years ago also I used to be a stage hypnotist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't explain that too often
Yeah.
anymore, but I did. And one of my professors told me that I should try to host
Yeah.
one of our college shows.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I was horrible.
Wow.
Because, and I'll set this scene because it's apparently a classic story now. We did a series of TV shows based on the effects of alcohol, and for the most part it was negative effects. And the episode I was hosting was with a Niagara police officer whose job most of the time always includes having to go to the family to tell them that their loved one has died.
Wow. Okay.
So heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm okay with heavy stuff, but I like to keep things light. So already I'm at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
When you're doing a TV show, and I count you guys down when I can, there's an earbud, right? Like you're listening to what's going on. So
Yeah.
whenever you see on TV, the hosts, they're smiling and whatnot, but sometimes you can tell a host that doesn't know what they're doing because they're listening in.
Yep.
And you have to pay attention to the floor director because they're saying speed it up or slow it down.
Yeah.
And I got caught up in that, and I wasn't listening to him.
Yeah.
And I knew we had to go to commercial. So he's talking about how, like, he absolutely hates having to go to the door and say so on and so forth, that how his or their family member has died. And I ended that segment with, well, that's fantastic. We'll be right back. And that's when my teacher said, yeah, I thought you'd be good, but you really weren't. Long story short, that's why I like just talking.
Yeah.
Because that's the way these should be, because you don't have commercial breaks. You don't have the
too many people like screaming in your ear telling you what to do and where to go and stuff. Yeah.
And I will always say that businesses are wonderful, but when you can personify the business, that's the best thing. Because there's a lot of, whenever you watch Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, they always, if it's a one-person business, they'll always ask, well, what happens to the business if you get hit by a bus tomorrow?
Yeah.
And bigger businesses don't have that issue because they'll survive if something
they
were
got
to
a board of
happen.
directors and all that. Yeah.
But you lose the person. Most of the time, you lose the personality. So having a rep who comes out and talks, or having the CEO or whoever come and talk, it shows that it's not just a big business. It's a person.
Yeah.
And I am your most avid listener of What's Up Niagara because I have to listen to it.
You would be. You'd be our number one fan. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I always saw Sean, and I mean everybody. I recognize everybody because I've seen their pictures all over. But this podcast has personified everybody that's been a part of it to me. So I know that I'm not wrong when I say that it's a good thing to be personified, I suppose.
Yeah, nice. And we look forward to kind of moving it forward. So.
Yeah, and this is the best. Going to businesses in Niagara to talk about businesses in Niagara at a bar is always great.
Always a plus, yeah.
Yes.
All right, Jesse, so where can people find you online if they were looking to get a hold of you?
Lots of places. So the DH Media side of things, www.dhmediateam.ca. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and all that. SS Brandit is ssbrandit.ca. We're also on Facebook as well.
Nice.
I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
You can find me. You can even find old videos of me doing hypnosis if you get bored. So.
Yeah, we'll make sure we link your podcast too, so people can check that out too. Yeah. Jesse, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
On this side of the camera. Now get back to work.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, that's What's Up Niagara. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of What's Up Niagara. Be sure to tune in every Friday for a brand new episode every week. And be sure to like and subscribe us on YouTube and Spotify. Give us a review, give us 5 stars, maybe tell a friend or a family member or a coworker that we exist. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out our website at davidsdelat.com. That's DAVIDSDELAAT.com. Thanks for tuning in.